Hi everybody. So today I'm going to take you through the deployment process in a Boomi platform. So right now we have landed into Boomi platform. So before we start with the demo, let me clarify a few things. So in Boomi, to deploy any process, what are the prerequisites? First thing, we should be having a enough connection license. Second thing is we should have an environment to deploy. So if we don't have an environment or if we don't have enough connection license, we cannot deploy any process. So I'll show it in a demo. These are the two prerequisites. Okay. So next thing is when it comes to deployment. So deployment is broadly categorized into three parts. So you can see here build, deploy, and manage. When it comes to deployment, these three terms are very important to remember. So what is build? Build is nothing but a canvas where we actually develop our process. So to meet the business requirement, as per the business requirement, we do write our process and all the business logic inside this canvas. So we have already written, we have tested, it's absolutely working fine. So now our job is to carry this process towards or across different environments. So in any landscape or in any project, ideally we will be having three environments, right? Dev, QA, and production. So few people call it as a stage or pre-production to QA. It's up to their terminologies. Let's call it as dev, QA, and production. So now, so as I already mentioned you, deployment to happen in Boomi, we should always have an environment and we should always have a enough connection license. All right. Okay. Let's define a environment. So for that, click on manage, go to atom management. I have already defined two environments. So let me show you from the beginning. I'll just delete this. Okay, let me detach. Okay, this is how it looks like. So whenever you don't have any environments, so this is our build tab. We are done with the development. We have tested and it's working fine. Now we have to deploy. Let's go. Atom management. Here you have see a new tab, right? Click on new and environment. So let me explain you what is this about. From our perspective, we can call any environment like dev, QA, pre-production, stage, common test environment. But from Boomi's standpoint of view, there will be only two classifications, test and production. So production will always fall under the production category and remaining all the environments will fall under test. It could be dev, QA, pre-production. Any environment you create other than production will fall under test. So choosing this environment classification when creating an environment is very important. So right now I'm going to create a dev environment. So obviously it falls under test category. So let me name it as dev and click OK. So I have created a environment. This is my environment. So as soon as you create any environment, Boomi will assign environment ID. You can see it here. This is my dev environment ID and the classification is test. Here you can see a configuration and attachments. In roles with access, you can select the administrator role or production support role, standard user role. It's up to your requirement. You can provide the access to particular roles. And this is very important. Okay, attachments. Even if you deploy n number of processes with n number of components, if you do not attach any atom to environment, it does not matter. It does not execute. So in Boomi, atoms or molecule, these we call it as a runtime engine to execute any process. These are must. So in Boomi will allow you to attach n number of atoms to one environment. It does not restrict you to attach multiple atoms to that particular environment. How do we attach? We have Boomi atom. This is nothing but a local atom. This is installed in my local machine. This is a cloud atom. Okay. So right now I'm going to attach a local atom. Just hit on this checkbox. Okay. Now my local atom is attached to dev environment. Okay. If you don't want this environment anymore, you can delete as well. Okay. So they have given an option that also. We have created an environment and we have attached our local atom to the environment. Now let's go back to build type. How do we deploy now? So as I have already mentioned, we can broadly categorize deployment in three classifications: build, deploy, and manage. So right now we are in build tab. So we have developed our process, we have tested, it's working as expected. Now we want to carry this to dev environment, right? So for that, we need to create a packaged component. Click on this packaged component, create packaged component. Can you see? So this is actually earlier I have created. It is showing that. You can just ignore it for now. Okay. Now add details. Here you can define your version. So already 1.0.1 is there. Now I am going to define it as 1.0.2. You can give some meaningful name. I'm just giving it a second version now. So always sharing should be not allowed. Create packaged component. It's asking whether to deploy or not. Right now I don't want to deploy it. Let me close this. Now where do I find the created package component now? Just go to deploy and packaged component. Can you see here? So these are earlier I did some POCs on the same thing. So you can ignore it. So if you look at here, this is the latest version and you can see the nodes also. This is the latest version. What we have created a packaged component. Did we deploy? No, we did not deploy to any environment. Just we have created a packaged component. Now here you can see an action. Click on this gear icon button. You can see here multiple options. Deploy. So let's go by one. Click on deploy. It is taking us to select environment tab. So how many environments do we have? Only one, that is dev. So if I click on this in drop down, it will show only one environment, that is dev. Let me click on. Can you see? Deployment notice. Let me use some name or disk to DB integration. Anything you can name, but give some meaningful name. Select versions. Deploy select packaged components. You can give a details here. What are the included components? Just to double check. And no deployments happen. By default, this will be empty process library. Okay, once you deploy, it will show here. So these are the included components. And these are the details. Where is our folder or created date and packaged component ID and the status. Okay. Review is done. Now it's asking whether to deploy. You can click on deploy. It will go and deploy in dev environment. Just observe this recalculating dependencies and auditing. Okay, I'll talk about that. So deployment is successful. Let's close it. Where can I see whether the deployment happened or not? Click on manage, atom management. This is my environment. Click on the attached atom. So I have attached my local atom. Here you can see deployed process. Can we see here? This is the process which we deploy. We are able to see here, right? Now, the most important part is connection license. How it works is, as I have already mentioned in the beginning, one environment to one environment, you can attach multiple atoms. So here, how many atoms I have attached? Only one atom. So how it works is, in your process, how many connection you have used multiplied by number of atoms you have attached to particular environment. Here, how many did I attach? One. How many connections do I have in my process? That's two. Disk and database. So 2 into 1, 2. For this particular dev environment, deployment to happen successfully, I should have two connections license in my bucket. Only then deployment will happen. So I was able to successfully deploy, right? So you can see I was able to successfully deploy this process where it was having two connections, which means I had the connections in my bucket. I'll show you where to check how many connections are there, how many did we use, all those things I'll show you. So this is how it works. So to keep it in short, total number of connections you have used in your process into number of molecules or atoms attached to that particular environment. So those many connections should be available. Only then deployment will happen successfully. Otherwise, it will throw error. Okay. So this is very important. Let's go back to build tab, deploy, click on deployment. So here you can see in Boomi, actually, in most of the environment, how it works is we will allocate a different server for different environment. Or in Boomi, all the deployments will fall under one list. So you have to filter it by environment or deployed by component type component. So by environment, by default, it is showing only dev. If I have three environments, it will show three in the drop down. You can check it and the respective deployment processes will be available in front of you. Okay, this is how we can filter it out. Let me click on this gear icon. Here there are few important gear icon buttons. Deploy to different environment. So right now our process is in dev environment. I want to carry it to production. Just click on deploy to different environment. Obviously it will throw error because in this platform I have created only one environment. That's the reason it's showing this error message. Okay. So if there is another environment defined like a QA or production, if I have enough connection license, then I can deploy there. All right. So this is about deploy to different environment. So there are two options here, rollback and undeploy. All right. So let's say you have deployed your process, you have done some modification, it became 1.0.1, 2, and 3. So somebody has done some changes and he deployed 1.0.4. All of a sudden there is some issue and it's breaking the process. So I want to get back to the previous version. In such cases, we will go to rollback. Okay. Deployment notes. And you right now there is only one version. That's the reason it's not showing a rollback option. If you have a multiple, it will show you. Okay. This is used to roll back the deployment. Second thing is undeploy. If you just click on undeploy, you can read this message. Undeploy packaged component version 1.0.2 of integration file to DB from environment dev. This will remove the component from environment. So whatever we have seen, right, clicking on atom deployed process, that will be removed. In the case of process or API component, it will no longer be available to execute. Undeploying does not delete the package component version. Okay, this will actually delete from the environment, but packaged component versions will be available. So I don't want to undeploy now. I just wanted to show you how it works. Ideally, to get back my connection, we do a undeploy. If I undeploy, two connections I have used there, again, those will be available to me. Okay. This is about rollback and undeploy. So if you want to get back to previous version, you should always choose rollback, not undeploy. Undeploy will actually delete your process from the environment or deployment history. So I have only one version, that is 1.0.2. So this is my deployment history and this is a active status. You can have a multiple versions of deployment, but at a time only one version will be active. Okay, this is to remember. Next, compare deployments. Latest revision in the development or another version. Do I have another version 1.0.1? You can compare. Do I have, if there is any change, it will highlight in a yellow color. Okay, with changes, I don't see anything. Without changes, I could see everything. So meaning of this is there is no difference between 1.0.1 and 1.0.2. So that is the meaning. If there is any difference, it will highlight here. Then you can work on it. And also every component will be having revision history here. All right, you can see 1, 3, 2. So as and when you deploy or make some changes, it will change. Copy to component explorer. Let's say I want to copy this to build tab. Copy to component, this process. Copy to component explorer. Choose a destination folder. Let's say if I choose this and copy 11 components, the entire process and the components will store inside this process library. For this purpose, we will use copy to component explorer. All right. This is about all these options under deployment. And also in build tab, that is one way of creating a package. Okay. Another way is here, create packaged component. This is also one way. So now deployment has happened. All right. Let's go back to atom management. Now here you could see, right, environment extensions. These are very important when it comes to connections. Connections should be always reusable. If you use multiple connections, you have to pay to Boomi. So to avoid that cost reduction, we should always use an environment extension. Environment extension, how it works is, can you see here, disk. So if this is checked, by default, whatever the during deployment, whatever you have defined directory and polling interval, it will be executing. Let's say suppose I want to change this directory, so I don't have to again work on a process and redeploy it. Just uncheck this, give your new directory, it will start fetching the files from here. And also same goes for polling interval. All right, so this is how it works. So these are the things you can have a extension properties, partner setting, we call it as a DPP, dynamic process property, cross reference. PGP is nothing but certificate data maps. Okay, this is why we use extensions. Now let me click on the atom. How do I schedule this? So now we have deployed our process. I cannot sit and execute manually, right? So it has to be automated. How do I do? Go to deployed process, click here, execute process. So this will actually trigger some manual execution. So I want to schedule it. Where do I go? Edit schedule, add, and I'll give it as 23. I want to execute this every 1 minute, including Saturday, Sunday. Okay. One thing we have to observe here is minute, hour, day, advanced. We cannot execute in terms of seconds. So minimum time between two process execution will be always a minute. You cannot execute any process at the interval of 30 seconds, 40 seconds. So that privilege Boomi has not given. So minimum difference between two process execution should be always 1 minute. Okay, we can click OK. And there is one more retry. This is execution. Let's say I'm executing this process. If there are any failures, I can add a retries. Okay, maximum you can retry how many times? 5 times. Here also you can define your interval and retry. It's not recommended to use retry if it is until and unless if it is really required. So right now I'm not going to use retry, but that option is available. That's what I wanted to show you. Let me create a retry, delete a retry. So I want to execute this every 1 minute, all the day. All right, just click OK. Where do I see the executions now? Schedule saved. Click on manage process reporting. Is it started? Do I have any error message? No. What is this symbol? This is a manual execution because I just triggered it, right? From manual execution. Here also you can execute manually. Execute process, select atom, Boomi atom, integration file to DB, execute. This is auto refresh. You can turn it on. Can you see another transaction? It's not yet completed. It should turn to green. This is scheduled execution. We have already scheduled, right? This is already triggered. This is manual execution. Just now we have triggered. This is the difference we need to understand here. This symbol is manual execution. This symbol is scheduled execution. So how many, what is the interval we have given? 1 minute. So every 1 minute, my process will be kicking off. Can you see here? Process is already running, execution ID. So this is the error message. This has got failed. So that's what I wanted to tell you. We cannot execute this simultaneously. We can execute, but we need to do some setting changes. So if the process is running in between, if you execute the same process, this is the error message you are going to see. Okay, so that's why I executed manually in between. So let's wait for some time. After exactly 1 minute, it is going to trigger one more scheduled execution. Can you see? This is failed now. Okay. So every 1 minute you can keep on refreshing, you will see a transaction. So this is how the transaction look like. Let's go inside this. And also one more thing I wanted to tell you is by default, it will show you past 1 hour transaction. If you click on this, you can customize this past 24, past week. If you want to check the whole transaction, you can give the time and the date and apply. It will show all the transactions which ran in between this date range. Okay, this option is available, but by default it will be past hour. All right. So if you can see here, it keeps on running every 1 minute. How do I see the execution, right? Just click on this date. Can you see here? No data, 1 document, successes, 4, database connection, 2, disk V2, write files, 2. So these are the documents. Just click on this action. You can view for this particular transaction. You can view the process log, what has happened. Can you see all the logs? We have printed nothing in the notify shape. And this is the decision shape, map shape. So everything, it's writing a log. This is a process level log. View process, it will directly take you to the build tab. It will show what process are we monitoring now. This is the process. Okay. View deployment components. So these are the components we have used in our process. View process state. This is very important while calculating the performance time, right? So sometimes what happens is while running the load test or while running any particular process, it will be consuming the time more than expected. So during such cases, this process state details will help us to understand what is the pain area or what exactly causing the delay, right? So here start save to execute, how many seconds it has taken? 0.025, 0.006, 0.029. These all are in terms of milliseconds only. So process complete in how many seconds? 5.576 seconds. Let's say get file is taking more than 5 minutes. I get to know the delay here only. So based on this, I can take a decision. I can optimize my solution or fine tune my solution. So this is very important detail, that is, we call it as a process state detail. Each shape, how much time it is consuming, you can see in terms of milliseconds also. Okay, this is very important. View extended information. Here you can see execution ID, process ID, atom ID, deployment ID. So whenever we are tracking the transaction, these will helpful. So this is about actions. Okay. Next here, gear icon button. You can view the process, view the deployment components, view process state, view extended information. We have already seen all those. What is this in and out? In is document coming inside the process and documents going outside, which are reaching it to target, right? Since I'm running the same files again and again, it's showing the same number. Here it has failed, so it's 0 and 0. All right. Is it continuously executing? We have scheduled it for 1 minute. 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. Next will be 50. Alright. This is how we can monitor the transaction. And also one more important thing is you can these are the document level transactions. How can we filter? You can add a tracking field, that is one thing. And also by default, here there will be some options. Can we go to connector type? We have used disk here. Disk V2, apply. So based on connector, we are able to see these many transactions. And track field also we can. So if you have a customized track field, using that you can search for a transaction. Can you see here disk V2 file name? I can select this. I remember my file name. You can ask the, if there is any problematic file, you can ask the source team what is the file they have triggered. Then you can give person1.xml and apply. It will give you only those transactions. Okay. I think I gave a wrong file name. Let me see it. Okay, this is uppercase actually. That is the reason it's not showing. Can you see now? These are the person1 document level transactions. So let's say for only for this particular document something is failed, then you can go and see here. This is the directory I have fetched, created it, modified it, and you can see the data also. Person1.xml is a file name. Click on gear icon button, view document. This is the person1 data. Can you see? This is the person1 data. This is how you can download the original document as well. You can see the documents. Here also you have a load execution. If you want to reprocess, you can load the execution. So Boomi atom is used, connector type, action type, add filter. So this is how you can filter the transactions. This is document level, this is execution level. So execution level will show you just one execution irrespective of number of the profiles. But document level will show you, let's say in one execution there are 100 documents. It will show 100 transactions here. Okay. But execution it will show only one. It keeps on running, right? 49, 50, 51, 52, 53. So this is how scheduling process works. Let's say I don't want to run it anymore. How do I stop it? Go back to atom management. Click on atom, deployed process, stop schedules. Click on stop schedules. It's stopped now. It does not run anymore. Okay. If there is anything in progress, it will execute. But after that, it will stop the execution. So transaction will not be running anymore. One more thing I forgot to show you is how do I see the connection license, right? Let's show you. That's very important. Go to account information and setup. Click on licensing. Can you see here connector class, licensing, connections, cloud usage, and API usage. Right now, we did not do anything related to cloud usage or API usage. So we are dealing with the connections. How do I know which are production connections and which are test connections. Small business, standard, enterprise, trading network. These are production. Just scroll down. Small business, standard, enterprise, trading partner. Can you see a test inside the bracket? These are test connections. How many connections did we use? 2. Is it showing under deployed tab? How many is remaining with me? 1. If I want to deploy this particular process in another test environment, it will block me. It doesn't allow me. And also, can you see here which are the connections we have used? DV connection and disk connection. You can see the internal IDs of the connections as well. If I want to get back my connections, what do? I have to undeploy. Then these two connections I'll get back. Okay. So before that, let me create one more environment and show you whether it stops me from doing that or not. One more time, I'll repeat it. Above you are saying, right, small business, standard, enterprise, trading partner. These are a production connections. And whatever you are seeing inside bracket, these are test connections. How many connections do I have in my bucket? 3 are purchased. How many did I use? 2. If I want to create another environment and deploy this process in a test environment, it will block me. It will reject the deployment because I should have 4 connections to do that. And right now I'm having only 1 connection left with. Let's see the demo. Manage, atom management. How do I create another environment? Click on new environment. Let me name it as QA. Classification should be test. Is it created? Yes. I'll attach this atom. I have shown all these things. I don't want to explain again. It's attached and my environment is ready to deploy. All right. Let's go to deploy, deployments. So I have deployed it in dev. Now I want to deploy it in QA. What I said is I have only 1 connection, but I need 2 connections to deploy. It should block me. Give some random nodes. QA deployment, review, integration file, deploy. You should see an error message now. Can you read this error message? Deployment rejected. Attempted to deploy 2 more standard connection. Doing so would exceed your purchase for this connector class by 1 connection. Because I have only 1 connection in my bucket left with me. 2 connection I used for dev environment. I need 2 more here, but I have only 1 connection. That's what it is saying. So I need to purchase 1 more connection to deploy to QA environment. Otherwise I cannot. Or else I have to undeploy the process from dev environment and deploy here. Then it works. So this is what I wanted to show. This is how it works. Let's say I create a production environment and deploy. Does it work? It absolutely works because I have a connections over 3 connections I have. Let me show you. Create new environment, classification, production. Click save. I'm attaching the atom. Okay. Before deploy, let me show you. Account information setup, licensing, standard. How many did I purchase? 3. How many connections did I use? 0. How many are available? 0, right? So I should be able to deploy to production, not to the test. Okay, let's go back. Manage, sorry, deployments, deploy to different environments. How many environment does it show? To QA and production, right? I want to deploy to production, deployment, review, deploy. Deployment successful. It's not stopping me from deploying to production because I had 3 connections. How many did I use in the process? 2 connections, and hence deployment is successful. You can go back to manage, atom management, production, click on the atom deployed process. Can you see? Here also you can schedule it. All right. So this is how it works. Now, how do I get back my connection? I have already told you, either I have to go for purchase or I have to deploy the unused process. Let's say I want to get back my connection to do some other POC. Just go here, deployment. Is it showing production in Dell? How do I filter? Environment. I want to undeploy Dev. Is it showing only one? Click on gear icon, undeploy, undeploy. Has it gone? Now we go back to settings, account information, license. How many connections should be available now? 3, right? Available. Earlier deployed was 2. I have undeployed, automatically it became 3. Then I can do some POCs on some other connector using maximum 3 connections. So let me undeploy production also. We'll see. Can you see the production? How many did I use? Deployed 2, available 1. I'll undeploy production also. Deploy, deployments. I have only 1. I don't have to filter. Undeploy, undeploy. So I should be having 3 connections back in the production account. Licensing. Do I have? This is how the connection licensing will work. So I hope this video will help you to understand the basics of the deployment process, how exactly it works in the Boomi. Okay. Thank you for watching the videos. Let's meet in the next video. Have a good day.